Welcome to Specifically About Quality, the podcast by Qualitywise, where we explore the principles, practices, and challenges of modern quality management. We will discuss key concepts, share real-world examples, and bring clarity to the complexities of quality management. In each episode, we provide insights for quality managers and professionals, helping you lead with confidence, ensure compliance, and drive continuous improvement. This podcast is here to support your work and your impact. Clear, focused, practical. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the Qualitywise podcast, where we unpack real challenges in quality systems and turn them into clear actions. I'm Agata Lewkowska, a quality management system expert with years of experience in automotive industry. Today with me, I have Christopher Scott.
And I'm Christopher Scott, an expert in quality assurance and operational excellence.
Before we'll start, let me thank you again, dear listeners, for your appreciation of this podcast by commenting, subscribing, and simply writing to us. Let's make this podcast more powerful. Therefore, at the very beginning, we would like to ask for your interactions also with this episode number 4. But today, we're talking about, I must say, my favorite topic, and also maybe favorite topic for auditors and maybe a nightmare for some quality managers, because we will be simply talking about top mistakes in IATF 16949 implementation and maintenance. Are you happy with this topic, Christopher, today?
I think it's a great topic, and I think more importantly, how to avoid them, because we've seen companies struggle for years in our professional lives working in automotive and as a customer and in suppliers, just because they misunderstood the purpose of the standard. So if you're implementing or trying to improve your IATF system or your QMS system, this episode is packed with insights you can use right away.
Exactly. And before we'll deep dive into this topic, I just want to tell you that I really love this standard, how it is aimed and which benefits it can bring for the organizations. That's why I'm really happy to be a part of this discussion today, especially in the role of QMS expert, yes. So let's start maybe with the mistakes in treating IATF maybe like a checklist. Chris, I will give you the voice.
Yeah, so thanks, Agata. Let's start with mistake number 1 and treating IATF 16949 like a checklist. This is probably the biggest mistake. People treat IATF like it's a list of documents they need to complete for the audit because they need to have a so-called documented information and as evidence of meeting the requirements, or at least this is what people think. I mean, Agata, from your side, as an expert in QMS, what's your view on this?
Yes, they focus on, do we have the procedure? Instead of asking completely different question, is the process effective or the procedure is effectively implemented? It becomes a paper system, in fact, with such a mindset. And this is not supporting all the activities which are required by IATF 16949. The procedure can help us achieve the results, yes, but let's remember that actually procedures are actually a support for our processes, and the processes are the heart of the quality management system, yes. And here there should be an emphasis on this, how we design this, what must be the outcome from such processes, yes.
Yeah, and I agree. So when I ask someone, what does your system do for you or your company, they usually respond, it helps us pass audits, and that is a red flag in my experience, especially when I'm auditing suppliers.
The standard is designed actually to help you build a robust customer-focused processes, yes? Not just paperwork. Let's remember that the main aim of IATF standard is continuous improvement and your quality management system development, general variation and waste reduction, not only at your organization, but also in your supply chain. Let's remember that we have error proofings required by the system. And actually, IATF is actually reinforcing this, what we actually already discussed in the episode 1 in our podcast, the quality culture. Of course, quality culture is something more than fulfilling the requirements, but still, if you have the requirements, you know what is your skeleton, yes? What is your basis for this, what has to be performed to assure quality. So now my proposal is, let's talk about something connected to IATF 16949 and very strongly audited, especially during third-party audits. Customer-specific requirements here, I mean. What would happen if we would simply ignore them? Chris, how do you think?
I think that it kills certifications in itself. So whether that's the third-party audit to get the certification or recertification audit, as well as when customers come on site to check it, they want to know, are you complying with their requirements specifically in that audit? So many suppliers think IATF is the same for everyone. It's the same standard, whether that's GM, Ford, Nissan, Toyota, it's all the same. But it's not. Your actual requirements changed based on the customer. Now, the German OEMs have very different requirements in our experience versus the Japanese. Culturally, it's different, and they have different priorities to meet customer satisfaction in the end.
With customer-specific requirements, the challenge is also that there are many OEMs. Currently in IATF, we have 11 OEMs. 10 of them had issued their customer-specific requirements. And if the organizations have actually big portfolio of those customers, those OEMs, there is no easy life because all the customer-specific requirements of all these customers must be implemented. Luckily, we can maybe say we can divide them into German market with quite specific standards supported by VDA QMC organization manuals, and also the rest of the world. Yes, but as you mentioned, there is also Asia, which is not that interested in joining to IATF organization. Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, and in some cases, what I've seen, depending on the OEM, they have the manual, they have the requirements, and they also avoid some of those requirements and say it's not necessary. So I think from my perspective, every function, whether you're engineering, logistics, material handling, production, should know what customer-specific requirements apply to their scope. That's what needs to be defined in the organization.
Let's maybe now jump into another mistake, because as we said at the very beginning, we're going to talk about 10 mistakes. So another one will be the third one, poor internal auditing. Do you have any experiences with seeing your suppliers while auditing that they have just poor internal auditing system?
Yeah, I'd first like to say that internal ones, when they're done right, they're an improvement tool. So they're used, not continuous improvement, they're used to make sure that we meet the standard of the QMS and the requirements. When they're done wrong, it's a checkbox. And I've seen many suppliers, and will continue to see many suppliers, have this mindset where they tick the box and say, okay, well, Ford says this or Daimler says this. It's just a checkbox to them, and that's not how it should be.
Yes, but also maybe this is connected to the fact that auditors are not experienced, not very well trained. So actually, when we have untrained auditors, they maybe are treating audits like filling templates, checklists, yes, but not really understanding and evaluating the processes. This might be connected also with this that IATF is required really high competences for internal auditors or even second-party auditors, like not only understanding what is in ISO 9001 and IATF itself. However, we need to understand risk-based thinking, process approach, working with specific documents if we are talking about auditing production processes. I mean, control plan or FMEA, yes. And generally, the concept of conducting the audit itself, yes. So this technical aspect of doing the audits, and maybe this is that's why the problem, the issue actually for this poor auditing program, but also the resources in our organizations might be not sufficient. Yes, the resources, I mean, not only in terms of competences, but maybe we have too many processes, too little of auditors, or simply when the customer requires, for instance, specific approach to the audit, like German's VDA 6.3 for manufacturing processes, then we have to have trained such auditor. And this is, again, investment and the time. So this is my perspective.
Yeah, I think if your audit doesn't make people reflect or uncover real risks, then it's a wasted opportunity. And just to probably expand on that, My time in a Japanese OEM, they had a concept which was called supplier health check, and they developed an audit where it was very comprehensive. It's a 5-day audit. It looks at ISO 9001, IATF 16940 requirements, the Japanese requirements in that OEM, plus all of the risk-based thinking. How do you de-risk the program? So suppliers that are typically in that sort of scope would be they're causing loads of disruption, they've stopped the line, they have some performance issues in general with quality. And that was a very specific customer-related requirement to be trained in that audit. It wasn't just a customer doing it. The suppliers, key members of their companies had to be able to do those audits as well. So it was both.
Mm-hmm. One way to fix it maybe is just simply, I will come back to the training for the auditors. But unfortunately, if this is a risk in our organization, we just need to plan some activities to train those auditors. That's why, what can I advise you? I really like teaching about auditing in the way like we are doing workshops. So if generally you would like to learn from Qualitywise, I invite you to workshops for auditors where from practical perspective, we can, of course, present even on the shop floor how the audits should be performed. But now let's jump into another mistake. Let's talk about core tools like SEC, FMEA, MSA. I have the feeling that once they are created, they are forgotten. Yes, these are supposed to be actually documents which are strongly supporting quality assurance, yeah, especially in the serial production, because they should be actually working, living documents. Maybe MSA not that much because there is no requirement to do it periodically, for instance, unless we will not define it in our organization. However, SPC has the nature of being preventive tool, so we cannot stop doing this, yes, to calculate the process capabilities. We need data. FMEA, this is a perfect example because FMEA definitely needs to reflect all the risks what are happening in our processes if we are talking about PFMEA or on the product in the FMEA. And what is your impression about those tools, Christopher? Do you agree that it could be a mistake that they are not living documents?
I think they are living documents in my experience. I think many suppliers and OEMs approach it like they do the PPAP manual, they know the AIG 4th edition manual and so on, and they read that like it's the manuscript. But it is a living document. It's not a one-time event. And in our webinars, if you've joined them, you'll hear us say about quality planning and zero defect direction is that it's not a one-time thing. PPAP is a living document. And what I would call it is something called PPAP syndrome, air quotes. It's tools created just to submit a PPAP to the customer and then never ever updated. And I see this in AD responses where they don't do a PFMEA review or they don't update the control plan as part of lessons learned or horizontal deployment. This is something which is an epidemic in the use of PPAP, I would say.
Mm-hmm. When we are talking about this, I also had a thought that maybe even worse situation is that those documents, even created just for one event, are created by one single person, one quality engineer who will be rescuing all the production process and foreseeing all the risks. But let me remind to everyone that actually FMEA has to be done into a multidisciplinary team. Yes, so at least few functions should be present in creating this document. Everyone has different perspective, different knowledge, different experiences, and I believe this can deepen the FMEA analysis itself.
The FMEA should drive real improvements, shouldn't it? It's not just influencing your control plan or reaction plans. It's not being used. And I think you have these big organizations which has really technical, great products. But then when you dig deeply and the FMEA is not identifying the special characteristics and that's not cascaded on the Gemba or the shop floor, that's where the disconnect is as well. And sometimes it's the opposite way around where the shop floor has all the controls, the FMEA has the requirements, but there isn't a link in the control plan to what those controls actually are. I see this all the time when I'm visiting suppliers. all the time.
Good that you're talking about this, because actually I just was aiming to go farther with control plans, and actually that control plans do not reflect reality. This can be a common mistake, and actually I'm treating this as a low-hanging fruit for the nonconformity during the IATF audits, and I raised such nonconformities many times. So let's remember that the situations in which IATF 16949 is saying about control plan, for revision of control plans actually, and update, are actually our requirement. So please remember that you have the possibility to update if you find the situation like it is not the reality.
So control plans often exist for a document for engineers. So I saw recently at a supplier that their control plan was led by engineering, which was good, but that was the first time I saw that. Usually it's led by a quality professional, quality engineer, quality manager. But for the first time, the engineering function, manufacturing engineering, led that document. The only downside was that quality didn't have an input at all. It was led only by manufacturing engineers. So we know shop floor engineers have hands-on work in automotive, but there's no excuse in terms of to read and update control plans. In many situations, I've ordered suppliers and they don't match what's happening on the floor. And to take the example, special characteristics, there was control, there was things identified in the workstations, but there was nothing in the control plan which indicated that was being measured and controlled by the process. And the same way, you could see lots of poke-yoke, lots of mistake-proof devices were in the process. It cannot be moved to the next process, but nothing in the control plan said that. There was nothing to indicate there was any mistake-proof devices, but you could physically see there were some.
Oh, so this is actually a strange situation, because this can lead to the nonconformity connected to error-proofing implementation in our organization. Yes, unfortunately. You've said about manufacturing engineers, yes, who were actually with hands on the quality control plan. But of course, in some organization, we need to bear in mind control plan is not a document used on the shop floor. This is a document for engineering, yes, and take the information from a control plan to the working instruction. That's fine. But maybe would be beneficial to consider reviewing control plans regularly with production teams. They are working exactly with those controls which are defined in the control plan. So why not take this opportunity? We can simply call it like our chance to, do continuous improvement on our methods. However, let's remember that this is quite a tricky thing, because if we would change control method, this can also lead to the PPAP, at least to the notification of the customer, and waiting if the customer would say, I want to have a PPAP. So generally, let me come back to my main point. If we would review control plans regularly with productions, this could be also a kind of a training tool, yes, for those people on the shop floor, to remind them how the engineers plan the work, yes, and to make people aware that we are performing our work based on this higher level document, yes. And definitely let's pay attention to the update process, especially if in our organization we will take a decision that we are reviewing control plan regularly. Because if we will not do this, this will be our nonconformity against internal rules. I remember in one organization, there was established a periodical review for control plan. Every control plan must be reviewed once per year. And you can imagine, after 1 year, there was a bottleneck, because in one time, many control plans should be updated, and it was not simply. So this was really a risky situation, yes?
I think just to add to that, maybe a question to probe a little bit deeper, Agata, would be, what happens if they have nonconformities and they're not reviewing the control plans? So as an auditor, would you say that if you have a customer nonconformity, like a SCAR, Supplier Corrective Action Report, or a nonconformance, and the control plan is one of the reasons for why that documentation needs to be updated, as an auditor, would you check to see the nonconformity and the review of the control plan has that revision history between them. Do you check to see that?
If I would have a complaint, especially connected to the control method, if the root cause would indicate that here we were ineffective, that simply means that the control method was designed not properly for this characteristic, yes. And definitely in such situations, I would really expect that, of course, FMEA first must be reviewed if the risk would be significant, let's call it in that qualitative way. Definitely, this may influence changing the control plan. But again, this is what I've said before. When we are touching control methods, this may end with PPAP.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so let's rapid fire a few other classic IATF mistakes to see how we can prevent them. Maybe, Chris, you can tell us.
Yeah, sure. So there's no link between the QMS, the quality management system, and company strategy. Leadership are not engaged. Risk-based thinking only mentioned in documents, not in practice. Trainings are not done when needed or on time against the training plan or polyvalence matrix. Poor problem solving, so this is no root cause analysis or doesn't go to the true root cause of the problems and countermeasures. Lack of data for continual improvement.
Actually, you've said quite the big topics. The first one, no link between QMS and strategy, but also this leadership, risk-based thinking, and problem-solving culture. I must tell you that good examples. And actually, I think there could be much more potential mistakes in implementing IATF because there are, let's be frank, a lot of requirements. Yes, some are difficult, demanding, some are not. Let me pay your attention that on IATF official website, you may have a statistics of top 10 minor and major IATF third-party audits and nonconformities, which can be also a guidance for you. And referring to this, let me just tell you now that the problem solving is actually the winner. And this indicates that here we maybe don't have this culture or the methodology not defined properly for different sources of the problems in our organizations. It's not only about problem solving when there is an official complaint from the customer, yes? And another one, significant, of course, connected to the problem solving is also nonconformities and corrective actions, yes? How we work with the nonconformities, yes. So these are the points which I would say are worth to consider what we have in our organization.
Just a bit of a shameless plug, Agata. We do have an article that we've co-wrote together on the nonconformities that people can refer to on qualitywise.pl.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so what good implementation could look like? Chris, any ideas?
Yeah, so what does it look like if it's implemented well? So you're seeing things like ownership, processes are stable, which means KPIs are reviewed regularly, if that's every month, every week, every day, depending on what's driving change. Customer-specific requirements are understood and integrated, keyword to be integrated in the process and the procedures that people work to. Audits, internal and external, are a continuous improvement tool, and we've had a webinar recently. At the point of this recording, we had a webinar to talk about continuous improvement. So we welcome anyone to go back and look at that on LinkedIn, on our YouTube channels. And then for core tools, they're effectively used. So these are things like the FMEAs, the SPC, as you said. So risk-based thinking is applied fully, not just in part. So the final message really on that topic is that leadership is involved. And that's the difference between compliance and culture.
I think the last sentence, what you said, which actually tries for the culture, is this leadership involvement. Yeah, so we can actually have all the solutions, all the requirements met, but if there is no leadership commitment to quality management system, and let me emphasize that this is again the requirement of even ISO 9001 standard, yes, that the leadership is taking the accountability for quality management system and its effectiveness. So this really will not be a success if leadership is not engaged in activities connected to quality management system, which must be certified in automotive industry according to IATF 16949. I use word must, but there is a small star. Of course, we know that ISO 9001 may be sufficient in our automotive industry with the maturation path toward the IATF 16949. Okay, so let's wrap up what we've said today. Generally, implementing IATF 16949 the right way isn't just about passing audits, the third-party audits, which will later be finalized with the certification. It's building a system and supports growth, quality, and what's more, customer trust, which later will be reflected in customer satisfaction. Moreover, this can meet the goal of actually IATF. This is what the standard is aiming to bring to the organizations, yes? And I've said about already continuous improvement, quality management system development, reducing variation and waste in the supply chain, for instance, yes? Anything else, Chris, you'd add?
You don't have to do it alone. Get training, get perspective, and treat the standard as a strategic tool, not a checklist. So here at Qualitywise, we're here to help you meet those needs, and we do have training courses that can help you grow as an individual and your organization.
At Qualitywise, we offer hands-on support with IATF implementation and improvement, whether you're just starting or stuck in reactive mode. From gap assessments to internal auditor training to core tools workshops, we'll help you build a system that works for you.
Visit qualitywise.pl and download our free checklist, Top 11 IATF 16949 mistakes and how to avoid them. Plus, we offer a system of health checks and coaching for teams. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, your QMS should serve your business, not the other way around.